Hi, I'm Rob Durham. Today I'm going to talk to you about the 10 myths of stand-up comedy.
He tours clubs and colleges all over. He's just published his third book. Give a nice big round of applause for Rob Durham.
Myth number 1, it's our only job. You'll find very few comics who can survive just on the money they make at gigs. Comics need to be freelancers into other things, whether it be driving Uber, web design, substitute teaching, which is what I did, which actually led to a full-time career in teaching on top of comedy. Anything they can get into, modeling, commercial acting, anything else that they can do on the side to support themselves, because the gigs alone usually do not pay the bills. Myth number 2, there's a comedy circuit. A lot of times after shows, it seems like old men always ask me, so they just put you on a circuit with a bunch of shows? No, that's not how it works. Every gig you get is kind of the equivalent of getting a job somewhere, especially at a comedy club. You have to know someone, you have to impress someone, have a background of experience, and just kind of work your way up. There is no circuit, so one of the toughest things about surviving is just getting a number of shows that pay money so that you can support yourself. Myth number 3, you can use this in your act. Again, this is normally old men after shows who, or even friends, no offense, but we can't use the material you try and give us for our act. If you want to perform it yourself, go ahead, but we can't incorporate something out of context from your story and put it in our act normally. So we appreciate that you're trying to help, but it's kind of silly, especially when you call it our comedy skit. That somewhat offensive. I don't know, just appreciate it. You want to tell us a joke, that's fine, but we're not going to use it in our act. Myth number 4, comedy will impress the opposite sex. Not really, especially starting out when you're not making any money. Those first few years, you have to find someone that's very supportive of you because you're not going to be that funny. They're going to see a lot of bad gigs. You're not going to pick up a lot of people after shows. People go to shows on dates, and then the show ends, they leave, and you go back to your hotel room by yourself. It's really not as glamorous as even being in a band. So if you're in it just to pick up the other sex, it's probably not going to happen that often. Myth number 5, the ultimate goal of a comedian is touring. It may be at first, maybe the first 5-10 years, but ultimately comedians want to get off of the road eventually, get a sitcom, get something into syndication, something they can settle down. The road wears on you. So even if you are successful on the road, you want to be able to limit those shows or make higher paying gigs. You'll find very few comics who survive mentally and emotionally as they're just touring year after year. It really does wear on you, and it's not the ultimate goal. Again, the big screen or something in syndication is the ultimate goal of a comedian. Myth number 6, comedians only work a half hour to 1 hour a night. That is not true. Comedians have to spend a lot of other time on other things, listening to their shows, writing material, remembering that material, driving to open mics. Just driving to and from gigs takes up a lot of time. Promotion, networking, all kinds of the other freelance things. It's a busy day if you do it correctly. Those that only work a half hour to an hour a night, they tend to plateau pretty early in their career and never really advance. Myth number 7, the comedy club pays for your food. They may cover a meal if it's a nice club, if they even have food anymore. They may pay for your dinner that night, but the rest of the week that you're at that comedy club, the meals are on you. You may stay at the comedy club condo, and you don't want to touch the food there. It's left over from previous comics, so you have to buy your own food when you're on the road. You can use it as a tax write-off, which is fine, but it's one of the major expenses when you're on the road, and it's hard to find healthy food too. So clubs do not take care of you in that way. Myth number 8, the gig pays for your travel. That's not true either. Unless you're a big shot headliner who can write that into their contract, you have to pay for your own transportation. And usually that's driving for hours and hours. So a lot of times comedians sell merch after the show just to pay for the gas money. But ultimately it is very expensive. It's a huge expense, a tax write-off again, but the club or the gig does not pay for your transportation to and from a gig. Myth number 9, it doesn't feel like work. That's great when it doesn't feel like work, but my last two gigs have especially been work. Last night I worked a gig for a 50th class reunion for everyone in their late 60s. They were drunk and a little tired, so I had to work for close to an hour to get much out of them. The week before, I was entertaining 25 drunk bachelorettes at a party. That took full concentration as well. If you're at a comedy club and the crowd is hot, then yeah, it doesn't feel like work. But a lot of times with those other gigs, it is a real struggle and it is draining and exhausting by the end of your time. So it does feel like work. And you know, off stage feels like work as well. The promotion and the writing and the remembering and all that. So it's not as great and glamorous as it seems. Myth number 10: hecklers actually help our act. That is not true at all. Yeah, there can be some funny moments that come when we fire back at hecklers, but ultimately we do not need their quote-unquote help to make our act funny. We've written material to cover our time, so if a heckler chimes in, they're replacing our material. It's annoying. We don't want to acknowledge and respect drunk people, so please, hecklers out there, don't think you're helping. You're not. For more advice on how to make money in stand-up comedy, subscribe to my channel here. And check out my book, Don't Wear Shorts on Stage, The Stand-Up Guide to Comedy. This covers everything from your first open mic to surviving depression on the road. It's available on Amazon. It's available on Kindle books, any kind of ebook format, iTunes, anything. And I have an accompanying blog with this as well, don'twearshortsonstage.com. You can find me at robdurhamcomedy.com. Thanks again for checking in. I'll see you next time.